Welcome to the station of decapitation without your head. I'm Nasty Neal.
I'm Treacherous Trista.
We're joined by Brian Netto and Adam Schindler here. It's very good to have you both here.
Thanks for having us, man.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, a reunion for both of you as well, we found out before we went live.
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of Zoom rooms, but recently, but yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah. So I guess I'll give us a background for people who aren't familiar yet. How did you guys get started together?
Well, Brian and I, we've known each other since fourth grade, actually. We grew up in Minnesota, and we did the whole running around in the backyard with the VHS camera thing for many years. And when we graduated from high school, went to colleges that were decently close to each other. Brian had the party school. I had the more laid back school, smaller laid back school. So we stayed in touch. And then after college, we just kind of decided, do we want to make this movie making thing dream like a reality and actually make a go for it? So we just packed up the U-Haul and drove out to Los Angeles to make it happen. Didn't really know anybody, but had some perseverance and some luck, and here we are.
Yeah. Were you guys making stuff back then in the fourth grade?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it was just the two of us. It was really hard to recruit other friends to join us. So it was a lot of him on camera, me filming, and vice versa. Now, it's tough to make a good movie that way, but more than anything, it just kind of taught us how to be creative. It taught us camera angles. That was kind of our film school, because we didn't really go to film school, either of us. I mean, we took film courses here and there, but it taught us a lot. Looking back on that stuff, I think we learned a lot more than we realized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From doing the show and some of the friends I know who make film, a lot of them who didn't go to film school, I also got a lot of information, like listening to commentary tracks and like specials on DVDs and Blu-rays.
100%. 100%.
All that. I mean, when Blu-rays came out, or the DVDs came out for that matter, it was like a treasure trove of commentaries at that point, because VHS, it was just like you watch the cut and that's what you're watching. But DVDs, it's like commentaries and behind the scenes, and half the time I just bought DVDs to watch that stuff.
I agree.
And then you also had at that time you had people like Robert Rodriguez, Kevin Smith, Tarantino. So at a certain point, there was kind of that badge of honor for people that just kind of did it on their own, just kind of pulled up the bootstraps and just truly the backyard DIY ethos. And so we really latched onto that as well, because that was an inspiration for us. I mean, know a lot of people that went to film school, and I think they've done well for themselves, but I think our path has worked out as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did. And by the way, it's a little off subject, but I missed that on DVDs and Blu-rays. Not too many of them have commentary tracks anymore. That was always
that's right. If I remember, Shaun of the Dead had a zombie commentary track, if I remember correctly. It was just zombies moaning for an
Makes
hour
sense.
and a half. So it's a great sense of humor.
I'm sure you got a lot of information off that one.
Yeah. It was like, what did you just say?
Yeah, I miss
that. Yeah. We do too. Yeah, I miss that. I miss that too. I couldn't tell you the last time I bought a DVD or a Blu-ray, obviously. But yeah, you learn a lot from that kind of stuff, Fincher's stuff, David Fincher's stuff specifically. I remember his commentary. He used to have like tons of commentary tracks, and it was like with the production designer and the cinematographer and the gaffer and like people that you wouldn't normally see on those types of commentaries. He always put them on there, to kind of put them on a pedestal, and learn a lot from that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's unfortunate, but.
And when you mentioned like you would get some specifically to listen to them, there are some I did that like where I wasn't necessarily into the movie, but I knew like the director, whoever always did great commentary tracks, so I'd get them and really just listen to the commentary.
Absolutely.
Well, Kevin Smith's commentary tracks are like, I mean, that's
well, he took that. He made a whole cottage industry out of just
yeah, he's a master storyteller in that way. So yeah.
But also he just didn't he had no guards up. I think sometimes you get on there and you put on a persona, but he just never had that. Just no filter. He's just going to tell you, this was just not a good scene. Boom. This is why. Like it was, he's just good that way. A lot of people have been good that way. Adam Wingard also, I remember specifically watching one of him, and he was just very candid, like this scene didn't work, and this is why. We thought we could do it, we couldn't do it this way. I just love that. I mean, I think more than anything, they don't realize how important that is for other filmmakers, budding filmmakers, to hear that and just understand that. You're not going to see all the mistakes. The filmmaker will, but the audience won't. So it's good to hear that stuff.
Smith definitely like a pioneer, and before like a lot of people were making stuff without film school. I mean, when Clerks
100%.
came out, that was, everyone heard the story about times.
Yeah, the beginning of indie film in the early 90s, indie film. I mean, that's what set it off. And we just followed in the footsteps. I mean, funny Brian brought up the Robert Rodriguez stuff. I mean, I was just digitizing old VHS movies that we had, or like our old movies that we made, just to make sure that it didn't break down and we had something of it. And we stole so much stuff from Robert Rodriguez and those guys. I mean, we was like, oh, we just saw Desperado, or we just saw this El Mariachi, because like every shot just like cranes up to their face. I mean, it's hilarious to watch through all that stuff and just see all the camera angles we stole. But we learned, and that's how we did it. We just learned.
And I want to thank, by the way, Trista for setting this interview up, and most of the interviews this month and next month. It's very cool.
Oh,
Awesome.
well, I hope it continues to go well. It could be a train wreck any minute.
Any second
In which
now.
case, don't blame me.
Now there's a lot of pressure on them to do a
I
good
know.
I know. Oh my gosh.
Do you have a question, Trista?
I do, yeah. I'm assuming you're both horror fans, since you're
Yes.
horror creators. So I'd love
Yep.
to know what some of your favorite horror films are.
Well, we're huge Sam Raimi fans, of course. So Evil Dead, the early Peter Jackson movies, Dead Alive. I remember sitting in Brian's basement. One would keep look for his parents so they wouldn't see us watching Dead Alive in his basement. And then like he's got in the background there, The Thing, I mean, all the way to The Shining and The Exorcist. I mean, we're kind of like, we like it all. There's not one specific brand of horror or whatever that we like. I mean, all the way up to Hereditary now, and some of the, The Lodge, and some of the really, darker, heavy horror stuff we love. So, I mean, it's just across the board pretty much.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's been, I mean, from the moment we started making stuff, it was always horror based. And I think we never questioned it, frankly. And I think it was just something that we've always gravitated towards, just that feeling that you get, that visceral feeling. Laughter and being scared are the two greatest things I think that you can create as a filmmaker, for your audience. And mostly that's because of things that we like. That's what we love to do the most. We love to laugh in film, and we love to be scared. So I think more than anything, that's kind of what we love to infuse our stories with. Our first two didn't have a lot of laughter in those, but the last one we just did was was an opportunity for us to flex a different muscle and show just some of the stuff that like the 15-year-old version of us would have loved. So yeah, like you said, Sam Raimi, going back to some of the early stuff that Polanski did. I mean, we love stuff. It can be really dry and very just kind of grounded, or it can be completely over the top and just insane. And like the splat stick, the stuff that Raimi and Jackson were doing. Like we love our tastes run the gamut, really.
I think that's what's always cool about horror is, there's not just one type of horror. It depends what you're in the mood for. If you want to watch something silly, or if you want something.
100%. I think there was a period where I was watching a lot of heavy stuff, like Park Chan-wook. This is not horror, but Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, stuff along those lines. It really, that really pushed the boundaries. And I think recently found ourselves gravitating towards stuff that kind of puts you on that movie high, like when you just come out of the theater, you just seem like an Edgar Wright film, and you just
one of the greatest movie going experience I can remember. It was out here in Los Angeles. Was when Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead remake came out. Now talk about horror and comedy and the throw together of all of that. I mean, that experience was like, talk about movie high. I mean, I vividly remember walking out of the theater and just going, wow, what a ride that was. And it's, that's what we're, hopefully with the films that we make, that's what we're trying to achieve. You're trying to, make something that we want to watch in hopes that other people want to watch that too.
I do think those are the two genres that are the best to watch with other people. It's something that'll make you laugh or be afraid or be scared. Because you can share that with everybody. It's not the same like you're all going to sit there and cry together watching a drama.
Right, no, it's very communal. I mean, if thinking back to some of the best experiences we've had in the theater, it's almost entirely horror films. And that's just that communal experience of cringing with people and watching them kind of sit up a little bit and pull their feet up and just kind of hide behind or dig their hands into the rest. Like, that's exciting. I know it's for people that don't love the genre. I think they probably look and go, what's wrong with you? But I think for us, it's just evoking a physical reaction, which is so tough to do. It's just, it's a flat image on a screen. So if you can evoke something, it means you're doing something right. And that's what we love to do.
Along those lines, when you said other people who aren't into horror might think, "Hey, what's wrong with you?" and you said earlier about watching Dead Alive, and
Mhm.
sure your parents were coming down. Were they cool with you guys pursuing to make horror movies?
I think
Mom always says the joke. The funny thing is, every time I talk to my mom, she's like, "Can you just do a nice documentary about something?" It's, I don't know. We both had great childhood, so like, you know what I mean. Like, people ask us, where do these ideas come from? Like, you guys seem pretty even keel and pretty laid back, and I don't know. It's just I think I like to think that we just kind of manifest these horror ideas to kind of like purge those thoughts and purge any type of stuff like that, because we do live such kind of normal lives as far as like whatever you consider normal. But yeah, I mean, our parents, they wanted us to be happy. So, at some point they were figuring there would probably be a phase, and we would, our friends are buying cars and we're buying video cameras, and they're like, okay, there's a phase at some point, but it just never did.
They were just happy. I mean, I think they were just filmmaking in general, not so much horror, but filmmaking in general. Like it's obviously, I mean, where we were in Minnesota, like, it's hard. And if you're familiar with the industry, you'll look at it as hard. But I think coming from where we came from in Minnesota, you just look at it like it's an impossible dream. They were happy that we pursued it. They were happy that we chose something that we love to do. But I think just filmmaking in general. But I do remember when our first film played at the LA Film Festival, and I remember my wife telling me later, she's like, "I saw your dad watching the screen when your names came up, and like he got like emotional." And that was emotional for me, because we used to torture them with the endless bad movies we used to make, and just watch this, just check it out. And of course, they're looking at it proud because their child made it.
Right.
Like, I mean, but I think the opportunity for them to show that all that work that we put into has led to something that other people can enjoy beyond them. You know what I mean? Something that is discernibly good, that's obvious, but better than what we've been putting out. That meant a lot to us. Yeah.
Progress.
When you first moved out there, and it said like, you didn't really know anybody, so what were your first steps to pursue doing this? You go out to LA from Minnesota, and
great question.
Yeah, good question. We the funny thing is we had no clue. I mean, like, the movie industry is not like the business industry, which is like, put on a suit, go to an interview, hand your resume, do the thing, and then maybe you get a job. We didn't know that. So we dressed up in our best suits and stuff. I remember driving around. We'd go to like Disney lot and like hand our resume to the security guard and be like, and the guy's like, cool. And then we leave and he would come to throw it in the garbage paper basket. I mean, like, we literally did that. And then we would spend the rest of the afternoon at the theater watching whatever movies came out. We ended up getting jobs at Borders Books, which, for people who aren't familiar, what used to be a bookstore on La Cienega. So a big bookstore on La Cienega. So, I worked in the music department, the CD department. Brian worked in the book department. And we did that kind of like just to pay our bills and kind of get our feet under us and kind of figure this out. And then we ultimately got internships. We interviewed with some places and got internships. Brian got an internship on, what was it, on Warner Brothers, Brian?
Warner Brothers lot, yeah.
Warner Brothers lot, and I got another internship, and we just started doing stuff for free. Back then, it was okay, I guess, to intern for free. And
so it was 5 days. We were working 7 days a week. We only got paid for 5. That's what we always say. Yeah. So, 7 days a week we were tied up. But ultimately we said, again, using some of the heroes at that time, people that we were looking up to, if we want to get something off the ground, we've got to write it and direct it ourselves. So we put together a plan for delivery at the time. Now, at the time that we had hatched delivery, the only thing that was out even remotely like it was Lake Mungo, which is an amazing film. It's a found footage documentary from Australia. So when we pitched it to our manager, he was trying to wrap his head around the idea that it's this failed reality show that has, kind of dovetails into Rosemary's Baby territory. But he was like, yeah, sure, let's go for it. So that was our, you know what I mean? Like, everyone talks about Sylvester Stallone doing Rocky and just like, I wrote it, I'm going to make it. That was our example. Like, all right, we can make delivery and got it to some people, got some really strong responses. I think that was the first time we realized that when you put something out that people like, they'll come to you, they'll call you instead of the other way around. And we shot that in and around the Valley. We funded it ourselves, which they say never to do, but you got to bet on yourself. So we funded it ourselves, shot it around the Valley, and then premiered at LA Film Festival and sold out of that festival and went to about a dozen more across the world. And that was for us an opportunity to just say, like, look, we can tell an entertaining story for not a lot of money. And it was truly just an opportunity to use that to springboard to bigger things. So for anybody thinking like, how do I get truly, just bet on yourselves. Don't bet the farm and don't bet your house, or but bet on yourself and put something out, because I think more than anything, the people that end up doing it just end up doing it. They figure out a way to get it done, and so we just followed in those footsteps
and do the work. And not saying we had lots of ups and downs making that movie. It was definitely a passion project. Aside from the financial aspect of it, we basically did everything on that, and including edited and everything. I mean, and it was if we consider our backyard movie making, our grade school filmmaking, this was like our film school version of it, basically. Just teaching ourselves like every aspect of a production crew, what they do, and getting the right people involved. We hired all those people, and they all, it was a good group that really that all were there for the right reasons. Everybody worked really, really hard for basically no money. And that's where the luck came involved. You got a lot of good people that really wanted this thing to succeed and work. And it wasn't their passion project, and they weren't getting paid much, but I think they felt our passion and our excitement over it, and it kind of just like bled into the rest of the group.
Did you continue to work with any of the crew from the first movie?
Yes. We actually, well, the crew, no.
We're friends with. We're
friends with. Yeah, we're still friends with Laurel Vale, the lead. Laurel Vale has gone on and done her own amazing short film called "What Metal Girls Want," which toured the festival circuit a couple years ago. Great film, really good film. You should check it out online. I think you can see it on Amazon Prime. But the lead actor, Danny Barclay, the husband in that, he's turned into a really good screenwriter. Still an actor as well, and he wrote something that we're hoping to make soon. A really cool project. So we keep in touch with all the people from them, because it was, like I said, it was a lot of us were kind of were cutting our teeth in our respective roles on that film.
What's like the process like to get people to act like they're on a reality show? Because it is a certain type of
casting.
That's a very good question, because we, like Brian said, before we did delivery, there really wasn't any major found footage. The found footage thing wasn't huge. So our manager, we were telling our manager about what we want to do and how we want to do it. And we're like, oh, there's this movie we read about. It played at Screamfest, we think. I don't know. It's called Paranormal Activity. Do you think you could get a copy of Paranormal Activity for us to look at how we did that and just look at what it was? And he was like, no, guys, they have it on lock and key. I don't know what they're doing with it, but I can get you a meeting with the creator, Oren Peli. So I remember sitting down with him, just sweetest guy you'll ever meet, and sitting down, and he literally laid out papers on the table and said, this is how I did it. This is how I put it together. I formatted it. And we literally just took a lot of what he had done and did our own little versions of it. But we wrote a script, or what we called a scriptment. So it was all the action and the arcs and the characters in the story, minus the dialogue, minus much of the dialogue. And we cast actors on their improv ability, their dramatic improv ability, because it's a straightforward horror movie. It's not a thriller horror movie, so it's not a comedy thing at all. And we didn't give the cast the script, so we just kind of told them what was going to potentially happen in this scene, and let them just kind of go and fill stuff in, because just to let them feel the moment and not feel scripted. So that's how we did it. It terrified. We met with a lot of people beforehand that were like willing to give us a little bit of more money than we really needed to make it, but they were terrified at the idea of us of it shooting it this way.
They were like, wait a minute. They're like, wait a minute. Because actors aren't going to see the script. We're like, no, we've cast actors for their ability to improv. They just almost asked it again, like, wait, I'm not quite following. So we realized that they weren't the partners for us, but for us, it never scared us. I think we found actors that were really game and excited about the process. And so they'd be in hair and makeup, and we'd be like, all right, here's the scene. This happens. Here's the in point. Here's the out point. And in between, if there was little bits of lines of dialogue that they needed to get across that were specific to the plot, we would feed them those lines. But outside of that, a lot of it was was built on the relationship they'd had, because we were in prep for about a year, where we just kind of met and got together and fed them who their characters were and sent them on little missions to take photos with each other and take little day trips. And we had that kind of time because we didn't have any money. And so as we were building this thing piecemeal, we had plenty of time with our actors. So 100% came down to casting. And when we even cast, we didn't have sides. We just sat them in a room, plot 2 people down, and had them pretend to be husband and wife, and just went, go. And some people gave us the deer in headlights, and some people just ran with it. And I think that really kind of weeded out who had that particular skill set.
Yeah.
And that's straight out of the Oren Peli playbook. I mean, that's what he told us he did. He's like, Paranormal Activity, sat people down, brought them in, sat them down, and said, why is your house haunted? Why do you think your house is haunted? And then people like, I don't know. And like, just see what they could do, kind of a thing. And we were like, that's a great strategy in order to get, because that's this entire art delivery is all that. Is like, Laurel's character is the main character. She's the one who's pregnant. So she knows a lot more than Danny's, her husband's character in this. There's a lot of scenes where she knows a little bit more. We tell her a little bit more than we tell him, and vice versa, to kind of let them play off of each other and reveal some things in the scene. And luckily it worked. It worked remarkably well, I think, in drawing those performances.
Did that make it more difficult or easier to edit? Because I don't know like how much you'd shoot doing that.
We had a lot of footage. I mean, that's the reason we cut it ourselves. It scared off editors. I mean, we didn't have money.
We literally,
but we cut it ourselves at our kitchen tables. And so it was, like I said, lesson learned. I mean, we got a lot of footage and we got what we needed, but ultimately it was just a mountain of footage. It's just a lot of footage because we were just running and gunning and just capturing performance, lots of takes to make sure that we got what we needed. So it was daunting.
I know you had
the release of I had to say the release of Delivery does have commentary tracks. Just had to add that.
Does it? I don't remember that.
Yes.
Oh wow.
Yes, we did do commentary.
Very good. Did you have a question, Trista?
Yeah, can you guys talk a little bit about Type AB?
Sure, Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, well, so that was, Type AB is obviously us, Adam and Brian, and our goal moving forward.
I actually didn't put that together.
No, me either. We're very confused over here.
So yeah, I mean, it's at a certain point, I think we're going to expand to include things that we like to produce, because there's a lot of filmmakers that are friends and people that we're fans of, and we love to get their stories out there. But ultimately, our stuff is, like we said, genre oriented. It's we have television shows that we have in development, but primarily feature films, and it's kind of what we've done. I mean, I think if you look at Delivery, which is kind of a psychological horror film, our second film, Intruders, is more of a home invasion. And then what we just did with the 50 States of Fright is very much kind of a fun bit of kind of a grab bag of all of our influences: horror, action, suspense. So those are the things that we really enjoyed. We like telling stories like that. I think moving forward, our goal is to try to tell stories about the people that maybe you don't see on camera very often, maybe underrepresented, and just bring genre to that segment of the population. So that's really important for us moving forward. That's some of the stuff that we have in development now that we're trying to get out. Mm-hmm. So that's Type AB.
When you were doing a lot of the improv for Delivery, did that shape the movie differently than you foresaw it? I know you had like the outline of it, but just how people are using different dialogue, did it change anything while you're making it?
There were definitely happy accidents. But we had a very good idea for what we wanted. It's hard to think back that far, but it's been about 10 years. But I can remember not walking away until we got what we needed. But without a doubt, there was happy accidents. I mean, more than anything, the happy accidents were actually probably more in the first, because the first act of it plays like a thing you'll see on TLC. Like, it's very upbeat and sweet and bright, and there's lots of laughter. And then it takes a slow turn down, and then it takes a more gradual turn down. And I think the humor that you saw in the first part was a lot of the happy accidents, because that just happens when you get two people together and riff.
It was surprisingly funnier. Yeah, it was surprisingly funnier and surprisingly felt more real with the humor added into it. And
we just didn't run away from that. Yeah, we didn't. We didn't. We weren't afraid. I think I remember when we did a cut, we were talking about our friends in common, Trista. But I remember when we did a cut and screened it for a friend, Tommy Bernard, and after, I just remember saying, I don't know what this is, but I'm really proud of it. I really like it. And I think it was because we weren't afraid to put a lot of dramatic sequences in there, or a lot of humor or we just weren't afraid of whatever it was going to be, so long as it felt real. If it felt real, if that was a true emotion, it went in the movie. So
I remember that screening with Tommy Bryan because
Yeah.
Tommy's a cool dude, and I remember him after we watched it. He turned and looked at us, and he said, "Well, I'm jealous," and that just meant everything to us because I was like, because we had just poured everything we had into it, and to hear somebody just honestly say, "Goes, I'm jealous that you guys were able to mount this and just did this, just went and did it." You know what I mean? That felt really, really good. That was one of the most rewarding, just like moments. Like we hadn't even shown it to anybody else. Not even shown it to our parents yet, and we just like trying to get.
That's the benefit
I'm
of
jealous.
having. That's the benefit of the benefit and the curse of just the two of us that were a lot of the decision makers is that you don't know how it's going to play, and obviously for people that have seen it, it ends in a particular way that you're just like, how are people going to respond to that? You just don't know. You just don't know. So you throw it out there, and you just hope that there are like-minded people like you that dig stuff like that. With every film, really, that's everything.
Yeah.
When you talked about like the beginning is funnier than you expected, and then you have the music really adds to that. It really does make it feel like a reality show, and like a fast-paced reality show. Like
yeah, there's a language that they have that's very specific, and it was very oddly very easy to tap into. That was the question we got the most whenever we do Q&As, is they would be like, so if you guys worked in reality? We said no, we just watched it. It's very easy to just it's a lot of movement, a lot of music. It's upbeat.
Color.
It's color. It's just it's design. It's like a little toy in front of a cat. Like it's just made to keep you watching, and you know you come engaged with these people, even if they're just 30 minutes of them going to McDonald's. That's a reality show, and so we just tapped into that. It was actually fairly easy to mimic that.
Now, had either of you gone to festivals before you had your own movie in a festival?
Yes, around Minnesota. I mean, they would have some festivals come through. They used to show films at Bell Auditorium in University of Minnesota. We used to go see. I think it's where we saw El Mariachi.
Oh, that's right.
And stuff. So they would have stuff in the crazy, painful seats. They were like terrible, the worst movie seats you ever sit in. But you know, so yes, we would go see those types of films. We would be at the local movie Cinemaplex like every weekend though. We didn't at that point. We didn't go, well, I don't want to see this, or we would just go see anything. Like whatever came out, we would look at whatever we came out, we'll go see that.
I do remember seeing two films at LA Film Festival once. Two of my favorite horror films I'd seen. I saw them like I don't know if it may have been back to back the same night, but it was the original Ju-On, The Grudge, which freaked me out, and High Tension. They played at the same festival at LA Film Festival. So I'd been to that one, and those were films that some of the best horror films that had come out that particular year. So when they were playing that was great. And then when we got into LA Film Festival, that was easily like, we had pretty modest goals when we were making the film. It was honestly, we said at the end of the day, if we get a DVD of this that we can put on our shelves, that's it. That's all we need. And then everything above that was gravy. So being able to go to a film festival with your film is incredibly nerve-wracking. Particularly because we were there with our sales agent to try to sell. So truly, people are judging it not just on a piece, not just on merit to review it as a film, but also like, are we going to get our money back? So that was incredibly nerve-wracking, but we were really proud to get into that.
Luckily, our delivery played in the same theater right before a preview screening of The Conjuring. So most of the audience had no clue what our movie was going into it, because they're there amped up like, okay, I'll just see this movie so I can get my seat so I can watch The Conjuring. And that was one of the best viewing experiences I've ever had with watching an audience watch our movie, because people were just amped up and ready for The Conjuring, and they got a little treat with our movie, and everyone was so into it. And a
lot of the programmers kept saying, I'm going to sneak into your movie for the last 10 minutes because I want to be there for the audience. So we had people kind of funneling in. It was a packed house anyway.
At the
people
end,
kind of funneling in and just kind of hanging out, just waiting to see what the reaction was going to be. So touring around with delivery, we didn't get to do as much with Intruders, our second film, unfortunately, but touring around with delivery across the country and to the UK once. Adam went to
maybe.
Yeah,
I went to Norway, but that was for Intruders.
That was for Intruders. But touring around with delivery was without a doubt the highlight of our filmmaking career. Just being out and meeting all these other incredible filmmakers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This is a silly thing, but when you mentioned that the seats were very uncomfortable, I think there's a happy medium, because if seats are too comfortable at a film festival, especially if
they
it's
were
a
just like,
day one, you want to, if you're watching 10 hours of movies a day, it's hard. No
It
matter
just
if they're
got that.
great, it's hard to stay awake if
Well,
the seats are too comfortable.
yeah.
I've not
yeah,
not done a marathon. I don't know. I tend, you know what, I have like I can only do like 2 or 3 a day, because I really like, if I see a really good movie, I need to kind of think on it.
Mhm.
And so it's really hard for me to sit and watch too many in a row. So I've not done a marathon, but I cannot wait until we have the opportunity again. I mean, we're all
Yeah.
waiting for that.
I've
That's
done
the
a
that's the
few.
best. Being a filmmaker who has a film at a festival, whatever festival that is, there's no better place to be, because you just got the badge and you can go see all the movies. And a lot of those people you're hanging out with a lot of the filmmakers, and circling around to what we just did with 50 States of Fright. It was kind of like we were shooting. It's an anthology series for people don't know. It was on the Quibi app, which we know what happened with that. Rest in peace. Which happened. We know what happened with that. But it was very much felt like a film festival with just making films. Instead of watching films, we're making films, because it was like a small group of people, small group of directors. Everybody was doing their own thing. A separate episode was a separate movie, and we all were hanging out afterwards, trading horror stories, trading, battle scars, and talking about making them. And it felt very, very much like
Festival.
being at a film festival. Yeah.
Mhm. Do you guys often go to film festivals? Do you guys, I mean, before pre-pandemic, obviously.
Yeah, I went to them very often up until the pandemic. It's probably the thing I miss the most.
It really is incredible. It's a great experience. I think I did the Sundance this year. I went to see one film. Not went to see, but I saw one film. Not quite the same, but I miss them.
It's sort of how I met Trista. Was I saw her film Echoes of Fear at Buffalo Dreams Fantastic Film Festival.
Oh wow!
And then they had her on the show, and
that's incredible.
Yeah,
that's
Rest
awesome.
is history.
Yeah, exactly.
And I love Buffalo, but that's one I was thinking of. It's 7 days, and it's like 10 hours of movies every day, and it's by the end you're kind of delirious from.
Yeah.
But
no
it's
doubt. No doubt. No, I've heard that's a good one up there. I have some family up in northern New York, so.
Yeah. And like you said, it's great meeting everybody, and there's a real community at I don't want to say smaller festivals, but the festivals in like certain areas, because there's a lot of the local filmmakers who come there every year, and so they know each other. Then other people come from out of the state and stuff. So really,
do you guys go as press, or do you go just as an attendee?
Well, Trista would have gone with her movies.
With her movie,
yeah. And I went as press, and then I did have a short film in film festivals last year. That was
awesome. Congratulations, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So here in the chat, Azzy Gaming says they are a big fan, and Alec Rosario says a huge fan of AB, and that this is great.
Oh, that's cool.
That's very nice of them. That's very cool.
Even wants to know what led to Killing Floor Uncovered.
That a friend of ours, a mutual friend, a friend of ours knew the guys at Tripwire. And they were trying, I think Killing Floor.
Tripwire is a video game company.
That's the company that produced it. And so it was right after Delivery, and Killing Floor was just kind of making noise, and we were just, Delivery had just come out. So it was really cool. We just met with them. We screened the film for them and met with them, and they were very much the video game version of us. Like they were just, I mean, quite, from what we understand of Tripwire, almost like, made it in their garage and then expanded. And they said that they were looking for a way to kind of serialize or tell a story based on the game. And we played games as a kid, but not as much. And they gave us a version of it to play. And that was not a good idea, because pretty soon you're just on that thing for hours and hours on end. But if you've ever played that game, there's so many different ways there's so many different characters and so many different interesting ways in. And so we pitched them an idea on how we thought we could tell a little short that helped promote the game. And we shot it here in Los Angeles, and it came out, what is it, 2015 or 2016? Yeah, it came out on I think. Yeah. So frankly, we've been eager to go back, because like I said, the game has just blown up, and it's just so many different things you can do with that. So that was one of those things where we met someone, had a connection, pitched them a take, and they dug it.
Trista, you have a question?
You guys mentioned working on Sam Raimi's anthology.
Mhm.
I have to ask,
Mhm.
what was that like? Were you just pinching yourselves? Were you scared, excited?
Pinching, a lot of pinching.
Yeah, each other.
Mostly each other. Yes. They're like, guys, can we get the shot? Stop pinching. So that was
no, it was a dream. Yeah, it was a dream. It was definitely a dream come true. I mean, we were brought into that project by a good friend of ours who had seen Delivery. We had met with him. He was at a different executive at a different company, and we always were like, we want to find something to work together on, and you know, we just kept that relationship and hanging out. And he saw our second movie. He's like, oh, I love your second movie too, and we got to find something to work on. And then we were talking to him one time, and he said, there's something coming down the pike that might be something you guys would love. Can't tell you much about it, but when it comes time, I'll let you know. And sure enough, he reached out and said, this is what they're doing. We're doing the Sam Raimi thing for Quibi. It's an anthology.
Our first question was, what's Quibi?
Yeah, what's Quibi? The next question, what he said was, it's an anthology surrounding states, the 50 states, and horror stories told, or, you know, in those each state. And we were like, oh man, we have to think of one for Minnesota, our home state. So we put together a number of them and pitched our take on a couple of different states. And luckily they all gravitated to the Minnesota episode. We were like, thank God. And yeah, the process moved pretty quick. And you know,
by Hollywood standards, you know, from the time we pitched to the time, I think we pitched and shot and delivered everything within about a year. So it was about last April that we pitched.
That's writing it and
writing it, and then we were in Vancouver in October of last year. Is that right?
No, not last year, 19.
2 years ago. Okay. So, but great. I mean, incredible. Really. I mean, it was an opportunity to tell something from our home state. There's not a lot of memorable, I should say, or familiar horror stories from Minnesota. So for us, it was an opportunity to really put a stamp on the state. I mean, obviously, something like Jennifer's Body, and everyone knows Fargo. So it was a chance to kind of do something that, like I said, kind of the 15-year-old versions of us would have loved. And when, it really ballooned, it actually ended up being, probably in scope, the biggest of the episodes. And I think people were looking at us like, guys, are you going to cut some of this down? Because it was so fast. I mean, we shot it all in 5 days, and it ended up being about 25 minutes long. And it's got stunts, and it's got visual effects and practical effects, and a really big cast. Lots of running. And so, I think everyone was a little surprised, a little nervous, and then surprised when we got it all in the can. But we cut our first 2 films, and so we have a really good sense of like what we need and what we don't. And even I remember, 2 of our leads were both on Netflix shows, Asa Butterfield, Alex Fitzgerald, and they were like, we move fast on those shows, but this is fast. And we were like, don't have time, gotta go. Like it was just, it was that quick. But Sam, we met Sam kind of like it was like not quite a wrap party, but it was kind of like a halfway through the production, because everyone was staggered. So certain, people that shot first came, and then the people after them. So we were filming while other people were just in soft prep, while other people were editing. And so we have a really great network of friends that we met up there that are all incredible filmmakers and all just love the genre. And we met Sam kind of at a little mixer before he went back to LA. And only thing you say is, like, if you know the sense of humor and his playfulness that he has in his movies, that's him.
That's him
in real life. Like he's a film nerd and just a lover of horror films and the nicest guy you'll meet. I mean, you standing there around, in a big circle, just chatting about movies and all this kind of stuff, and you forget it's Sam Raimi, because he's just as enthusiastic still about everything and gets so excited. Oh, that one shot you guys did, that was amazing. I loved it. He was just. He's a cheerleader. He was a cheerleader for everybody. Like, and that was incredible. Like we pull out shots and show him stills, and he's just like, this looks great. He was just as excited. I mean, he's been in the business for a while, and it's easy to kind of be jaded or just lose interest. I think, you know what I mean? So the fact that he had that enthusiasm, like it's just never waned, that was incredible.
I mean, that was one of the highlights, obviously. One of the highlights for probably for Brian too, is when we first delivered the draft of our script, we did a read through. With a couple of the creative executives and a producing partner of his and Sam there. And we just literally, he's like, this is Sam's process. We're going to read through the script all the way. And Sam took one of the characters, and the character he took is a character in our short called, his name's Ashley, but people call him Ash. So We had Sam Raimi reading a part. People were calling him Ash, and I was just like, "This is surreal. What is happening right now?" And he got all into the characters. It was awesome. I was just like, just listening to him like lean into the characters and
incredible
and
notes.
play.
Incredible notes. I mean, which shouldn't surprise you, but incredible notes. Like I think people would be. I mean, he's just asking all the right questions. Well, why are we doing this? Does this make sense? Does this character? This person say this? So again, like they say, don't work with your idols, but in this instance,
it worked out.
It was great.
I actually was going to mention when you brought up Dawn of the Dead being the movie like you went to see, and it had the effects and the comedy. For me, it was Army of Darkness that came out when I was in high school, and I was I grew up playing Dungeons and Dragons, so it was very. So me and my friends, that was one of the funnest to watch in the theater.
No, that's a great movie. Great movies. It's and that's the thing is like his films were so. I mean, when we met him, it would be like, yeah, Evil Dead, this is important. And then you go, so everyone who knows me knows that Darkman for the longest time was my favorite film. That was the thing I wore out on the VHS, and I dated myself a bit, but Darkman was it. And I think if you encapsulate the stuff that we grew up with, it's kind of this mishmash of different things. And if you watch our episode, it's very much that. It's a bit of suspense, a bit of horror, a bit of action, a bit of fantasy, if you want to throw that in there. And I think Darkman and a lot of his stuff is that. Like it doesn't have to play by a particular set of rules. Like it doesn't just stay in its lane. And that's what we loved about Sam. And so that's what inspired us. And so truly working with somebody whose films, and then he's stuff like The Gift that he did, and what's the one that's shot in Minnesota? Simple Plan. I mean, we don't have to turn this into a fanboy gush about Sam, but that he's that influential on us. So it was 100% a bucket list thing for us.
Do you know where that series goes now without Quibi?
It's old Roku, I believe. Roku bought all the rights to a lot of the rights to a lot of the stuff. From what we understand, it will be on Roku at some point. This year is what we heard. I'm guessing they'll probably hold 50 states until the fall, and drop it around Halloween, which would make sense. Yeah. But yeah, that would be good. I mean, that'll be a much larger audience. I'd be excited for people because the responses from what the minimal amount of people that did see our episode has been very favorable, and people have liked it and the scope of it. And we're very proud of what we were able to pull off in that amount of time, and that everything worked. So hopefully it'll find a bigger audience.
There needs to be. There's too many great stories to be told. So someone will pick it up after Roku. Without a doubt, it'll go somewhere.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun watching it. I thought it was an excellent short, and I haven't seen any of them besides that episode, and I'm looking forward to
go through.
Go see them
when it comes back around. So many great filmmakers, and they're all really solid. I mean, they're all really great episodes. I mean, every single one of them. They had 2 seasons, I guess. What you could say 2 seasons. I don't know how Roku will distribute it, but how many? Were there 9 episodes or 8 episodes, Brian? Total?
9. Yeah, and some of them are 10 minutes long.
Total.
Some of them are 25, 30 minutes long. It's a bit of Anyway, check it out on Roku when it comes out. It's good stuff.
I also mentioned Delivery. We talked about earlier. That's on Amazon. People can get that on Amazon Prime. I'll put the link here so people can watch it.
Please.
And Intruders is also on Amazon.
Please, yeah. Check it out.
So how did Intruders come about?
You go ahead.
No, after Delivery, we had met with we had met with some producers on a sequel to Dawn of the Day of the Dead. Was it? Was it Day of the Dead? We pitched. I got to say, we pitched our asses off. That was a really great pitch. We ultimately didn't get it. It was a really interesting take, particularly on the Bub character, but. We didn't get it, but 2 of the producers in that, Trista Campbell and Lottie Grobman, they were like, "We love you guys. Like, we should just find something to work on." So it was right on the heels of Delivery. Delivery hadn't even come out yet; it was still doing festivals, and they said, "Let's find something." And we didn't know that this is not how it works, but they basically said, "We've got a guy with money. Go find us a script. Let's make a movie." And so we didn't at the time. We hadn't written anything fresh, and so we fortunately 2 writers that work with our manager, TJ Simfil and David White had a script that was on the blood list called Shut In. It was called Shut In at that point. It changed names to Intruders later. We should have kept Shut In, by the way, but that's a distributor thing. And so it had just come off of option. Like it was maybe a week from coming off of option. This was like in April. So from April until August, from April it came off option, we were shooting in August. Like that doesn't happen in Hollywood. We didn't know that it didn't happen in Hollywood. So we went from, just having these conversations to, hey, what about this script? And we had a lot of producers on board. They all seemed to really dig it. And we flew down to Shreveport, Louisiana, beautiful Shreveport. Like I said, filming 4 months later, like it was pretty nuts. But that was a really great process because we had some fans of our first film and they helped us cast, Beth Reese-Graff, Martin Starr.
Who's another Minnesota person, for Leverage fame. And she's from Minnesota. So we bonded over that a little bit. And Jack Kessie and Josh Michael, who did play Jared on Walking Dead, and our good friend of ours now. He's also in our 50 States episode. We wrote a part for him because he's such an awesome guy. We have to throw Josh in all of our movies because he's so awesome. But yeah, that making Intruders was again not a long shoot, like 15 days. But in August in Shreveport, it's like 100 degrees and 100% humidity. We found our locations scout there found us the best practical house location. It was better than we could have possibly imagined because the TJ and David wrote a wonderful script and they had very specific ideas because there's a lot of within the movie, there's a lot of just cat and mouse and there's a lot of things and a lot of specific things, stairways this way and things like that. And the house usually you'd have to build something like that because it was so elaborate. We found a house that literally fit pretty much everything. We had to change a couple of the small things, but it was just like, oh, stair goes up this way, stair goes down that way. Yep, that's in the house. And it, the house had been sitting, it was about 45 minutes, an hour outside of Shreveport. So it's kind of out there. And the person who had lived there had was an older lady who I guess had left and gone to hospice or what have you. But the house, when she had gone away, the house was just locked up by her family and left for it had been a year and a half since anybody had been in the house. So when we showed up, we were like, this is amazing. This is the location we need. This is the spot. And they're like, if anybody sees the movie, it looks very lived in. We'll just say it that way. It looks very lived in. We had had to have a deep cleaning company come and deep clean it to get it to that level of lived inness. It was like you unlock the door and it was like, this, dust, and it was pretty crazy. But again, a small crew, bunch of people that really wanted it and wanted it to be good, worked their butts off, man.
That was a good time as well because we went, when the crew left, everyone disbanded. Adam and I stayed behind in Shreveport and cut down there for a month and a half, 2 months.
We were down there for 4 months.
Okay, so it was just him and I and our assistant editor in a room cutting. We lived together in a condo, and I remember, we get a call from our line producer. It's 7 o'clock at night. He's like, "What are you guys still doing?" I'm like, "We're in Shreveport. We're away from everyone. We're just going to be here cutting. We're going to be here working. What else is there to do?"
What are you doing in the editing room?
It's why are you still there? So, it's a Saturday. We can sneak in and do it. We do it. Why not? Obviously, first off, you're getting paid to do something you love. That's one. Mm-hmm. But the other thing was, it's just no distractions. And I think for anyone, if you've ever been on location to film, that's the one benefit it does have. Obviously, there's lots that you have a lot of people that have to keep your home life running, and that's a huge stress. But you are so deeply focused because you're somewhere where you don't have a lot of ties, and you can just get lost in the work. So that was a really fun experience. Really fun.
It was good you found a house that had a dungeon down in the basement.
Yes, that was and let me tell you, it is really, actually, it's not that hard to find a dungeon, as you believe. That was
definitely a build. That was definitely a build.
Yeah. That was. Yeah, I mean, I just all the memories you talk about walking in that place, it just takes me back to when we first got there. I remember the guy that came out from the rug cleaning place. When he took a look at the carpet and he was like, yeah, when the person that's supposed to come in there and clean is disgusted by the state of the house, you're in for it. So, yeah. Talk about happy accidents. Those are the sorts of things that we had a crew. Obviously, the locations manager was from that area, and he also just happened to be driving down this road. I mean, this is the kind of place when we would drive to work in the morning, we drive to set, there'd be people riding by us on horseback. So it was out there. So the fact that he found that, it was, those are the sorts of things that without that house, without the people that bust their butt to find stuff like that, that's how movies get made. That's how they get the things that mean everything. It's from the people that put as much love into it as you do. And for a lot of times it's, not everyone, it's not their passion project, but they treat it like it is. That's how you get films completed, finished.
And so it was cool poster art too for Intruders.
We got lucky, man. We had no input on that.
We did no input on that. We had a ton of input in deliveries poster because we owned everything. So we were involved in all those conversations. But Intruders we didn't own. It's somebody else's money, and they're gonna promote it. And I remember we were editing in Shreveport. Brian and I and our assistant editor in the same room, like dueling editing systems, just like doing. And we got that email, hey, I thought you guys want to look at this, a poster. And we opened it up and looked at it, and we were all just started high-fiving because we were like, yes, that's so awesome. I mean, they hit it spot on. We were very, again, very lucky that sometimes you can have terrible poster art, but we really lucked out.
Yeah,
really lucked out.
A lot of friends who make independent movies and sometimes have really cool poster art on the festival scene, and then they'll get distribution and it'll be very look like
they dial it down. Yeah.
That's our first the delivery had poster art that we commissioned from some artists, and obviously it changes when it has to go to distributors, and that was because we own delivery. We were in on all those conversations with our sales agent, with our distributor. We had very intimate access, direct knowledge about every decision made, and we didn't always get a final say in it, but we were listened in on the decisions that are made. And it was fascinating. I don't think a lot of people realize, how the sausage is made and the decisions are made. Because a lot of times, if you're a director for hire, they basically just send you the poster when it's done, and they tell you where to show up for press. But that was probably the best education we could have gotten on the machine behind distribution and how films get to the public. Pretty incredible.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a question, Trista?
Yeah, if you don't mind circling back to Gray Cloud Island.
Sure.
You guys, I was so impressed by the special effects on that.
Mm-hmm.
And similarly, that's how stuff gets made, right? I'm sure you had a really competent team. So I'm wondering if you can talk a little about those people in that process.
Definitely. Yeah. So when we, the pre-production for 50 States was very quick also. We landed and we probably started shooting like 8 days later or whatever. So, and the way they kind of stacked the productions, they'd shoot one, they'd go in soft prep, then they would shoot that episode, and then they would go into post, and then they'd be on to the next one. So you only had a certain amount of access time with the department heads that you're going to be meeting with. So you sit down. I remember sitting down, we did a read through of the script. We talked about every single, if anybody's ever been in part of that, you just sit down and you talk through the script, every single action line, every single motivation line, everything needs to be figured out, and every department head needs to know what their specific task is. So I remember getting to the big visual effects sequence at the end, and they kind of had a mock-up picture of what they were thinking they wanted to do. Like we weren't sure. We didn't, we don't know how much money they had to spend on the visual effects, like how much time they were going to spend on the visual effects. We were just crossing our fingers, hoping that it would do it justice. And they showed us a picture, and I still remember Brian's face when they showed the picture of the mock-up that they were like, we were thinking like might be what it's going to look like. And Brian was like, oh man, what? That's great. Let's do that. And it was just, they were pretty remarkable in how quickly they were able to turn around stuff and how well it worked out. I mean, it was our first real experience dealing with like heavy visual effects, where it's like, this is a complete visual effect shot. There's like very little real
and that was all. It was a combination visual effect and special effects. So they had to create.
Yeah.
I think what happened was, I think we were filming that Thursday. Did we start Thursday?
We started Thursday, Friday, and then we came on Monday.
The thing you don't realize, who would know, is that we started filming on Halloween night in the woods in Vancouver. Probably not a problem, but apparently in Canada for Halloween, that's when they set off fireworks. So if you're in the middle, if you got fireworks going off in the background, and it was a crazy couple of nights. But I think on a Sunday they sent us the photo of what the face. Without giving too much away, everyone knows it's a big moment. There's a really great reveal, and so I think the visual effects team had sent the face of what it would end up looking like. But the special effects team was like, you want us to do that in 4 days? Because like we said, we landed, and when we landed, they didn't, because they were working on one film, all right, one episode, boom, all right, you guys. Like we would be sending them photos and all these sorts of things, but they couldn't truly get to it until we landed. So they had 8 days to build everything that you saw, costumes, all that stuff. And so I remember the conversation, we had 2 different versions of the creature effect, and one of them was like, pretty cool, something you've seen before. And the other one was what was in the film. And I remember saying to the guy, like, this is cool, but this I've never seen before. And he had that look like, okay, I'm probably just
you said it looked like I knew you were going to say that.
He's like, I'm probably going to be up for about 2 days, but I'll do it. And when he walked away, and we didn't see him again, and we didn't know when we showed up to set what was going to show up. And so what happened was the actress, like I said, it's a combination of a visual effect and a practical effect. We have the transformation as the visual effect, but they actually had to create the practical effect so that once we're done with the transformation, you see. And I remember they showed our actress. We have photos. Unfortunately, we can never show them because it's such a spoiler, but we have great photos with our actress and the effect in the face. And when we walked in the makeup chair and saw them working on it, there's teeth everywhere. We were just like, what? Incredible. Again, we didn't know. You know,
which version they were going to do. He was like,
we didn't know. I mean, we could have showed up and he would have been like,
this. I don't know.
Yeah, he might have been like, we tried, but we just couldn't do it. And what could you do at that point? You're in the chair. But the fact that we showed up and saw that, again, those are all the things that really go into it. So that team was incredible. They did incredible work for the whole series. For those that have a chance to watch it, but that's the big moment, really. Like it all leads to that. And so the fact that they were able to do that, and she was in makeup for hours to get that on.
It was like 3 hours or something, 2 or 3 hours. She had to be in makeup for that.
Wow. Yeah, we
and then go run around. Oh my gosh.
Run around.
We asked a lot.
Yeah. So thank you for highlighting that, because truly, the whole episode really builds to that. So it's important.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
I want to show a picture here.
Okay. Oh God.
She's scary. Oh.
Yeah.
Here you guys are.
That's us. That's my dad's hunting gear on the left. Brian's an Army soldier. I don't know what I'm doing with those shorts, but
well, if you notice, I'm also wearing shorts. I've got the
Oh yeah. It's like, this is your life. I feel like this is your life. Oh my God.
The next picture.
The next one. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah. So that's me, and
now we're gonna bring on your prom date.
Yeah, oh my God. Oh God. So that's us in my parents' driveway shooting some weird movie, and then the one on the right is us on the set of Intruders, man, doing the same thing. It's funny. It's us doing the same thing we've always done.
Yeah. I mean, that's
fun.
I remember hearing Christopher Nolan explain the difference between going from like Memento to Insomnia or Batman, and it really is not that different. I mean, when we walked on the set for 50 States, which is by far, even though it's only 24 minutes in runtime, by far the biggest thing we've ever done. It truly just felt like we were back home making our movie. I mean, you have more people to kind of bring that to life, but we've always just been pretty precise with what we want, and our communication has always been strong. So it's always very easy for us to just be like, great, let's get this, let's organize. But it was pretty massive just getting on set and realizing how many people were there. Like I said, by far the biggest thing that we've ever done, despite the runtime. So I remember you were asking earlier, Trista, if we were nervous, and we really weren't. I think we were the schedule was so insane. I don't think we had a chance to be nervous. I just think we just put our heads down and went. And
the only time I was a little nervous was exactly what Brian was talking about, when the car picked us up and we're talking about what we want to do the first day and how we want to do it as we're driving out to this, it's about an hour outside of Vancouver to the woods and what have you. And they pull into the parking lot and there's like 50 semi trucks and like hundreds of people walking around. And I got a little nervous there. I was like, oh boy, okay. We stepped it up, but then it's just movie making, man. It's just get the shot. Just do the thing, get the shot, and follow your plan. It's all about prep too. I mean, like Brian and I were prepping the whole time before we actually got up there, and we were pestering our DP. He was like, I'm shooting another one, guys. I'll get to you when it's your turn, that kind of a thing. And Tony Mirza was our DP, and he was phenomenal. Like, we owe a lot to him too, just his eye. He has a lot of experience in television and shooting fast and being able to like move
And,
a,
and it's
a-
beautiful.
a
He did a
crew
beautiful.
quickly.
It's a beautiful. I mean,
No.
when we shot, we weren't, fortunately for a lot of people that were doing Quibi shows, I think that there was that edict that it had to be available. You have to be able to keep in mind that people are going to be watching it both ways. But fortunately for us, Sam protected us and was just like, don't worry about that. Do it your way. So we're really excited for people to see it on larger screens, because to a person, everyone
We shot it to be that way. Yeah, we shot it to be that way.
all the
Let's be
episodes are beautiful, beautifully shot episodes. So I'm excited for people to see them, because despite being originally intended for a phone, they'll look a lot better on the screen.
Yeah. So what is it when you guys are working together? Like, do you butt heads at all? Or are you guys normally on the same page?
We butt heads all the time, but we're normally on the same page. I mean, we butt heads. It's kind of like we've known each other since fourth grade, so it's like brothers, and we
Right.
literally just like. But it's always about the story. Whatever we're doing always wins out. You know, there's no ego of this or that or whatever. It's always about what's best for the story. So ultimately, that will decide who's right. If we have complete opposite ideas as to what something is, it's just like the answer just kind of shows up, just because it's like, this is what this movie or this is what this scene needs to be to make this movie work or make this moment work, and that always wins out. But
I'd be curious to hear
Mostly,
if our actors ever saw, because whenever I hear filmmakers like the Coen brothers or Wachowski siblings or whoever talk about, I'm like, really? You've never had a disagreement on set? How is that possible? But I'd be curious to hear if the actors we work with think it's a seamless, two heads, one brain thing. And it might, for us, it may feel like we have disagreements, but to them, it may just look like conversation.
it's all in prep too. You iron out, for us at least. We do lots of prep, and we come prepared. So it's like we've ironed out all those issues before we even get on set. So that, because you're shooting something in 5 days, you don't have time. You don't have the 10 minutes to sit here and try to talk about whether this shot is right or what we want to do. Like, we have to have that stuff planned out already.
Yeah.
So
we
have those
also
little
wrote it. We also
discussions.
wrote
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think a lot of that comes down to you're interpreting someone else's words. For us, it was our words. So it was easier.
Do you have another question, Trista?
I do, yeah. I think Brian may have touched on it a little earlier about just being proactive and sort of just doing it. But I'm wondering if you guys have any other advice for aspiring filmmakers.
It's a great question. Adam, you want to start or you want me to go?
Well, I think it's, you kind of, they always say, oh, in Hollywood, you need to be lucky to like get movies going or whatever. Yes, you do definitely need to be lucky. But you need to do the work in advance. So you need to be constantly, if you're a writer, be constantly writing those projects, honing your craft. If you're a filmmaker, if it's just going out and shooting short films for yourself that you don't intend to show to anybody else, you need to be going out and doing that. So that when that luck or that opportunity, or you step onto that elevator and there's that person and they're looking for the thing, that you are ready to do the work, that you are at that level that you're ready to do it. So, if you're an actor, I'm not an actor, and I don't pretend I am, but practice your trade. I mean, you know what I mean? You got to continue to practice. We do it all the time. We're always writing. I mean, we're always writing things, and we're always trying to shoot things. You know what I mean? Like, even if it's with my kids, I have a 9-year-old and a 4-year-old, and there are people driving by and I'm like shooting little shots of them doing different things when we go on a walk or something. It's just keeping the muscle memory alive. You know what I mean? That's important for us, at least. That's creating your own luck. Just make sure that you're ready when the luck shows up.
I would also say two things: being humble and just also having belief. But the humble part comes from, we know a lot of friends that have moved out to LA, and then 6 months later they're back. And I think they thought they were going to land to a parade in a 6-figure deal. It's you really do have to come out. And for us, when we say that, like, you may come out here and you may already have material. You may have short films, you may have script. You can land and become an overnight success. That does happen. I don't think very often, but it does happen. But for us, truly, we landed and didn't know anybody. We didn't have any contacts. We got jobs at a bookstore. We went out and tried to get internships. Through those internships, we just learned how the business worked. And then we saw enough people doing it to figure out that's the path we're going to take. But I think you have to just it does take time. And for every person that you see that seemingly overnight became what you saw in an interview on television, they were grinding for 10 years. before you were ever watching them. So just don't be afraid of it. And truly, if, we love every single part of the process. We love casting, we love writing most days. We love the directing, obviously, post, we just love every single, so it doesn't feel like work. So, for us, it's that grinding. And then the second thing is belief, because, to the point we were talking about when we were doing delivery and the questions about how are you going to possibly do this, that, and the third, like you can't expect everyone to have the same level of belief in what you're doing. You can't, because they're going to be looking at it from their point of view. So just make sure that you obviously be prepared and listen to what their concerns might be, but don't let that sway you, because ultimately you don't want to be looking back and thinking, why didn't I pursue this? Because someone else out of their own fear, projecting it onto you, talked you out of it. So I think that's really important. I think that's probably the hardest thing, as we have gotten to a place now where we're bidding other projects, larger projects, and you have to send those other projects out for people to judge. And determine whether or not they want to invest their time or their money or resources into that. Like, they're not always going to see what you see. And that's the toughest thing. It really just truly does take one person. And there's lots of factors. The one thing that you never get as a creator is the feedback as to why. And some people just don't know why. They just have a gut that says no, but the feedback you don't ever receive. But it really just takes that one person. And I think there's so many stories, films like Get Out that for years was trying to get made. And all of a sudden everyone's like, yes, yes. And I'm sure Jordan was like, I came to you 2 years ago. What's up? Like, why didn't you say yes then? So that happens all the time. And I think you hear that from a lot of filmmakers that you would look at and go, wow, look at what they put together. But between those films that they've gotten made are the 5 in between every film that they didn't get made. And Trista, I'm sure for you as an actress, the difficulty of going out there and putting yourself out there constantly to get work, and it's similar. It's you have to be just dogged, and you just have to keep going. And
I have another thing to add to that, and just be nice, and just be a nice person. Just be nice. You don't have to necessarily agree with things that people are throwing at you, or this and that, but just be cordial. Just be a nice person, because that's what I tend to find. The people that we want to continue to work with are the people that pushed us and were hard on us, but we're nice. We're just nice people. They wanted the project to be the best it could possibly be, but they weren't an a-hole about it. You know what I mean? They weren't just being an a-hole for the purpose of being an a-hole, or I'm your boss and I can tell you what to do and this is what we're going to do. They're just nice people who want to make good movies. And those are people we want to work with. I hear from all the greats. Scorsese always says, I just work with the same people because those people are nice, and I know how those people work, and they know how I work, and it's comfortable, and it's not meant to be a thing where you're pulling your hair out and hating everything every day. You know what I mean? Like, we're making movies. You know what I mean? Like, this is what we're doing. We're making movies. So let's make it fun. Let's do it right, and let's do the hard work. Let's just be nice to each other and make it fun, like it's supposed to be. I mean, that's the kind of sets that Brian and I try to create. Is camp, fill in whatever movie you are. I mean, you'll get the best out of people that way. I mean, I firmly believe that you'll get the best out of people if you're just a nice person. You know what I mean? Very simple.
Yeah, I think that's good advice for whatever you're doing.
100%.
Yeah. I mean,
100%. Yeah.
No, it's a weird time right now, but are you guys working on anything currently?
We're always working on things. Yeah, so we have there's a couple of things that we're working on. We can't say much about. We wrote a script that has something to do with The Exorcist that we are working with a producer on right now, doing some revisions on the script, and hopefully we'll get that going this year. We're also working on potentially stepping up our 50 States episode into a feature, something revolving around our episode into a feature version of that. So that's kind of like in development, I guess, quote unquote development. And then Brian, you want to fill in on the last thing?
Yeah, there's a project called Turnkey. It's a haunted house story kind of turned on its head. Our pitch is like, imagine if Chris Nolan did a haunted house story. It would definitely not just be a haunted house story. There'd be a bit more up its sleeve. So that's something else that we're excited about, that we're hoping is our next thing. So we just try to keep busy. Yeah, it's the only way to do it.
Well, Trista, do you have another question?
I do, yeah. To take it back to delivery, as you guys know, I'm an actor, so I do a lot of indie films, and I'm based in LA. So I have to ask, Were you just stealing shots all over LA?
No. Well, yes and no.
Wow.
Wait, yes and no. Yes and no. We did get, we did get permits. So for a lot of the stuff that you saw, like we went to Santa Monica, the pier, we had permits for all that stuff. We went to a baby store and we went to Velvet Margarita. So we had to get permits for all that stuff. Our film was so small, we just couldn't afford to be shut down. And so we did it the real way. Like we did a real movie just on a really small scale.
Yep.
There are lots of shots.
LA Fire came when we got LA Fire came to inspect to make sure we had the right amount of extinguishers and all that. We were very concerned about, like, we cannot be shut down. We can't afford it.
But
We literally can't afford it.
It was a tiny, tiny, tiny movie. I mean, more than Paranormal, the original cost, but not a ton more. That said, we did steal a lot of, like, you'll see stuff like Beverly Hills and this and that. So yes, we did steal those, but don't tell anybody.
Hold the camera outside the car as you drive by the Beverly Hills sign and be like, okay, great shot. We got that covered. Little tricks of the trade.
Do what you got to do.
You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
We brought up Type AB, and I'll have the link in the description here. But where can people follow you to see what you guys are up to?
Yeah, we're online. We have our website, www.typeabinc.com. That's basically the best place to go to kind of see what we've done. We have our trailers and the stuff that we've done. They have links to both Amazon Delivery and Intruders are on Amazon Prime if people have that. And the Killing Floor Uncovered is on the PlayStation Network. So that stuff is, I think it's also available on Steam and what have you. So there's links to that. We're both on Instagram and Facebook, of course, under our own names, and we can send you that stuff if you want to post that stuff too. And yeah, we're always looking to collaborate with people, and these kinds of conversations are awesome. So thank you so much for having us on, and we could do this all night. It's fun to just talk about movies and making movies.
Yeah,
it'd be very fun to do it again sometime.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. We're here.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure.
Yeah.
Oh, same here. I appreciate it. Thank you guys.
Yeah, same here.
Well, I apologize.
Thanks for having us.
Technical difficulty, so he couldn't.
All good. I'll catch him next time.
Yeah, but I have to do this because he wants me to open this on air. Tomorrow's my birthday.
Okay.
It's my birthday gift.
All right.
If you guys don't want to stay for this,
no, I can't miss it.
I have to see what this is now.
Too much suspense.
No idea what this is. This is Rumble Slam, the game of fantasy wrestling.
That's pretty cool.
I love it. Yeah, cool. I'm a big wrestling fan. So I will look at this off air, but it looks like a miniature game of fantasy wrestling. So it's like ogres and orcs, and that's pretty
good stuff.
Like the Army of Darkness in the ring.
So it looks like you're hosting game night, the next game night, I guess.
Exactly. Very exciting. Very cool.
Well, happy birthday tomorrow, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Happy birthday, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. And I also have a package from Trista, but I'll open that tomorrow on my birthday.
Oh, now I'm really intrigued.
Yeah.
I won't break street date on it.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
We appreciate it. Thanks for having us, guys.
Thank you for doing it.
Of course.
And thanks everyone for watching.